Hello, my name is Vatsal, and for my AMS 159 midterm, I'd like to present a video about India and explore its cultures, traditions, heritage through the context of this course, AMS 159, taken with Dr. Janine Pfeiffer. And I hope you enjoy, as I have enjoyed certainly making it. Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to start by saying Namaste, which is a phrase recognized by many in the world today. It's been used widely by not only Indian personalities, famous Indian personalities, but other world leaders, from the United Nations to world leaders of other Western countries. And it's really very culturally significant. And the reason as to why it's significant is because the word namaste, also known as namaskar, is actually a very traditional form of Hindu greeting. And it's derived from the ancient Hindu scriptures known as the Vedas, V-E-D-A-S. And it pretty much literally translates to, I bow to you. So it's really a way of showing respect for whoever it is you're greeting. May be a friend, family member, a complete stranger. To elaborate that on a bit, the word nama is translated as na-ma, which means not mine. And the goal behind this is to reduce one's ego in the presence of another person. India is an incredible place that has a very unique ability of bringing people together for example, in this slide, in the form of festivals. So for example, on this slide you see the person with the two hands filled with colors, which represents the festival of Holi. And you guessed it, yeah, it is a festival of colors. And Holi is just one example, because India celebrates very diverse set of festivals such as Diwali, Eid, Christmas, Baisakhi, and I want to elaborate a bit more on the last one, Baisakhi, because it's actually a celebration of good harvesting and agriculture, basically harvesting of crop and celebrating the environment, essentially. And I put emphasis on Baisakhi because it's a very significant celebration, because it incorporates not only culture and bringing people together, but also celebrating a good harvesting, like I said earlier, and crops, and preserving the environment, and keeping those traditions and those cultural roots strong. And it's celebrated every year. So all of these festivals obviously do mark religious and cultural occasions, but they're often accompanied by fasting, which is quite an integral part of Hindu culture. Fasts, also known as vrats, also known as upvas, they're basically a way to represent your own sincerity and your thankfulness to the gods and goddesses. So basically what happens is people throughout the entire country would practice these fasts or vrats, as I said earlier. They could be in the favor of a particular god or a goddess, and also could be associated with a particular day. And the basic belief behind is that if you are to deprive your body of a basic necessity like food, and this is basically done according to the beliefs of Indian people in order to cleanse oneself for any sins that that person may have committed. And the way that I've understood it personally is because my family has observed these fasts, my parents especially, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and my own personal understanding of it so far has been that it's essentially a way of expressing your thankfulness of having family, having friends, having good food to eat on the table. And it's not so much, in my family at least, about making up for a sin, but rather it's about showing gratitude and being humble and being graceful and apart from doing all that, it's also a way to essentially give your body a rest from processing food. And it also helps you not to overeat, to not consume more than what's needed, which has health benefits, obviously. Now, moving along, I'd like to introduce the holy cow. Now, the cow, specifically in Indian culture, is definitely considered to be a very holy animal. She, and I say she on purpose because the cow is looked at in terms of a mother figure, one who provides food and nurturing. And apart from representing Mother Earth, essentially, I'd also like to mention that Lord Krishna, who is a famous Indian deity, actually grew up as a cow herder, and he's quite often been depicted as playing his flute amongst cows and gopis. Gopis are traditional milkmaids who would dance to his tunes. And another very interesting fact as it relates to Lord Krishna is that his other names, one of his other names is Govinda, which is also known as Gopala, which literally translates to friend and protector of the cow. And again, that is one of the reasons as to why cows have such a significant and auspicious presence in Indian culture and even religion. The other reason as to why I brought up the cow is because it is essentially the cultural backbone of India. People to this day in modern India worship cows, consider to feed and care for cows as a very holy act in service of God, of the cow, and in fact of Mother Nature. And apart from having significant cultural influences and having a strong religious background, cows also are a keystone species because they are the sole providers of milk, which Indians rely on heavily. They're big on dairy, and also cow dung. Cow dung is used in rural India primarily as a source of fuels like fertilizer and manure and stuff like that. Now, the next topic that I want to get into is the topic of temples in India. All of the temples in India obviously are beautiful, represent cultural, historical, and religious significance, but they also have tons of scientific significance to them as well. Did you know, for example, that most temples are located along magnetic wave lines of the Earth, which helps in maximizing the available positive energy? And because of this reason, people believe that the act of physically going to a temple garners positive energy. It helps a person rejuvenate their mind and body by whatever it is that they feel like doing at a temple, meditating, simply talking to other people. But it's the physical act of being there which is considered to be highly beneficial for a person. Now, India is also a very symbolic country, and I say that with reference to certain Indian traditions and scriptures which contain various signs and symbols that have various significant meanings. For example, the usage of the swastika in the Indian context, it does not point towards Adolf Hitler or Nazism. It is the symbol of Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha, who is known as the remover of obstacles. The arms of the swastika have various meanings. They signify the four Vedas, the four constellations, or you can also look at it as the four basic aims of human pursuit. Again, this symbol and the meaning behind it has been derived from Indian traditions and scriptures. And another reason as to why I personally am so fascinated with India is that having grown up in the country, I had been taught the phrase, Atithi Devo Bhava. Again, it's called Atithi Devo Bhava. It's a very integral part of Indian culture, which literally translates to the guest is equivalent to God. And that phrase, the guest is equivalent to God, obviously plays a very significant part in terms of the code of conduct for members of the Hindu and Indian society. And it just goes to show you how important a guest is, and not just a guest, so to say, how important human connections are. Human connections with people that you don't necessarily know that well. Now, the next topic which I want to mention to you is the clothing in India. The clothing in India is perceived to be very colorful, bright, very unique all around the world. For example, the sari. The sari is worn by Indian women, which is usually made out of cotton, and it's made out of a single cloth and requires no stitching, hence it's easy to make and also very comfortable to wear. And now I'd like to talk about something that India is perhaps the most popular for, and that's food. Indian cuisine is something that's very well known in the world, and wherever you go in India, each different state, each different region has its own food, its own traditional recipes, its own flavors, its own spices. And that really is a very one of the most beautiful things about India. And Indian food throughout the entire country does have a reputation for containing various different herbs and spices, a very common of which is turmeric, which is also known as haldi. It's essentially a yellow powder which is used in many different things such as curries, rice, and just a whole list of other things. So for this assignment, I chose India. I chose my home country is because not only do I have a special connection with it, but after taking this course, after learning about biocultural diversity and the way native and indigenous people interacted with the environment, interacted with each other, and how it's all, a lot of it is starting to die out, I can happily say that I feel very optimistic when I think of India from the perspective of this class, because India is a country which not only celebrates its past, its native traditions, but it embraces them in a very modern way, in a very unique way. And it's kept a lot of those traditions alive. All of the things I mentioned in this video are practiced to this day, which have been derived from traditional roots, coming from the Holy Scriptures, as I mentioned earlier, the Vedas. That's another example of native traditional text. In this case, you can classify it as text that has been the guiding force of many of the cultural practices even to this day.